Well, I usually recommend a full spectrum digestive enzyme. The enzymes that digest carbs, that digest protein, that digest fats and fiber, because the only way that we can digest fiber, because we don't have that enzyme, is cellulose, is chew your food well. And most people don't chew their food well. So a full spectrum digestive enzyme is usually good for, I would say, 80 to 90% of people. They need it. And it makes such a difference, even if you don't do it with every meal, just with one meal.
The information provided in this podcast is educational and not intended to diagnose or treat medical conditions.
Are you struggling with bloating, gas, constipation, and fatigue, but don't know what's causing these problems? The Gut Health Reset podcast with Dr. Anne-Marie Barter dives deep into the root causes behind these issues that start in the gut. This podcast will give you the knowledge you need to heal your gut and reset your health.
Dr. Ellen, thank you so much for being here today.
It's great to be with you.
Awesome. So you have really created your practice around digestive enzymes, and it's a topic you're very passionate about. So what are digestive enzymes and why are they important?
Digestive enzymes, first of all, there's different enzymes in the body. There's enzymes that digest food. There's enzymes that help with metabolism. There's enzymes that help with inflammation. In fact, our whole body is designed around good enzyme support. Digestive enzymes are different. They are found in raw food. And because people don't eat enough raw food and don't chew it well, that's a big one. And the soil just doesn't have those cofactors that create the enzymes that we should have in the food. We are deficient in digestive enzymes. And there are different enzymes that digest different food, like protease digests protein, amylase digests carbs, lipase digests fat. I have found that the most important supplement anyone could ever take is taking a digestive enzyme, because what it does, it optimizes the nutrition from your foods. So you don't need to take so many other supplements. Your health will improve dramatically, and you'll get that good, my motto is, it's not only what you eat, it's what you digest. So digestive enzymes are paramount in my healthcare practice and saved my life, basically.
Mm-hmm. And what is interesting for me in practice is that I'll have people come in and they're taking hydrochloric acid, or they're taking kind of one of the enzymes, and they'll say, hey, I'm taking these digestive enzymes already, but I'm having XYZ problems with my digestive health. So you quickly described the different types of enzymes and what they were used to break down. Could you go into that just a little bit more in detail? Because I see it all day long.
Yes, I do too. Well, I usually recommend a full spectrum digestive enzyme. The enzymes that digest carbs, that digest protein, that digest fats and fiber, because the only way that we can digest fiber, because we don't have that enzyme, is cellulose, is chew your food well. And most people don't chew their food well. So a full spectrum digestive enzyme is usually good for, I would say, 80 to 90% of people. They need it. And it makes such a difference, even if you don't do it with every meal, just with one meal. Sometimes people are more protein intolerant. Sometimes people are more carb intolerant. I was carbohydrate intolerant. People that, after they eat, if they feel bloated or have symptoms, that usually means they don't digest protein and fat. Maybe they need an enzyme that has a little bit more protein and fat, digestive enzymes. People that have more symptoms 2 hours or so after they eat, they're usually carbohydrate intolerant. That's the majority of the population. And you know what? Also, you usually crave the food you're most intolerant to.
Oh, I think that's true.
If you're craving carbs, you probably don't digest carbs. And by digesting it, by the way, does help the craving. When you take an enzyme, it will help reduce the craving because you're getting the carbs you need, and you'll eat a little less too. So that helps so you don't fool yourself. Because when you're so full, it's really doesn't feel very good. So yes, but usually a full spectrum digestive enzyme is more commonly what most people do well and really see the difference with in their lives.
So you mentioned that that people that are carb intolerant are going to have issues 2 hours later, and people that are maybe fat or protein intolerant are going to have issues right after their meal and have trouble. What other symptoms are people having that indicates that they're having a digestive enzyme issue?
That's a great question. And people who don't digest carbs, for example, which is probably most of the population, again, one of it is you crave those foods, and the carbs ferment. So symptoms that I have seen related to it is fatigue is one, which of course can be other things, but it can be that. And other things too is brain fog is common with that too, with people who are carbohydrate intolerant also. And again, reduced energy too. And again, bloating. And many people talk about bloating and they think it's just part of their life that they should be, that they feel like they get up in the morning, they're okay. And by the end of the day, they feel like they're 3 or 4 months pregnant, right? That's common. Other one, big one, which I'm sure you see, is problems with bowels, constipation, or diarrhea, or irritable bowel, where, they go back and forth. These are common symptoms, too, that are related to carbohydrate intolerant, too. People with fat and protein intolerant, I always find maybe have more symptoms of liver issues. For example, skin issues, or they feel like they're aging quicker than they should. They get bloated almost immediately, too, as well. Lots of gas, lots of indigestion, heartburn, GERD. Usually these are protein and fat intolerant people when, they have heartburn. And that's so common, even in young people. I'm sure you see it today also. It's amazing how many young people come in with symptoms of reflux and GERD or heartburn, too. And again, you crave protein and salt. People who crave salt are fat intolerant. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, I actually have never heard that. Yeah.
This is because this has been my practice for years and years. People who crave salt, which is a lot of people, usually are fat intolerant. So sometimes when you digest the fat, your salt craving will be reduced too. And then you crave fat. You crave the food you're most intolerant to. So anything can cause anything. So, as you know.
Right. Yeah, it was interesting. I have an athlete in my practice who just kept on saying, it's like I can't tap into my second gas tank. None of the other symptoms, but pretty hungry all the time, but also, a very incredible athlete. And digestive enzymes just fixed the problem, actually made her able to tap into that second gas tank and not have to eat everything in the house to actually be able to function, which is difficult, right? And that's in a young gal.
Well, I would say fatigue is really common with carbohydrate intolerant. That's one of the things. And how many patients, what are they have a laundry list of symptoms. What's their first thing? I'm tired all the time.
Always.
Why are they tired? And why do we say that people as they age should, it's normal to be tired? No, it's not normal. And as you get older, you do need those digestive enzymes more than ever.
Yep.
Really important.
Because, as I see on stool tests all the time, that's where the digestive enzymes just go out to lunch. You don't see the same processes as you see in a younger, in somebody younger.
Exactly. Right.
So you talk about detoxing our bodies, and you talk about an organ-specific detox. What is that?
Well, I created a system called ECM, and it's actually an energetic healing system that developed 40 years ago that really gets to the root of underlying health problems. So if somebody comes in with asthma, if they come in with fatigue, or they come in with eczema or psoriasis, what I do is energetically with a machine that I use, and I created a program that's nothing like it. There's nothing that exists like it. Trust me. I can get to the root of what's going on, whether it's a bacteria you're still sensitive to, or it's a food, or it's a neurotransmitter, or it's toxicity. So one of the first things that I check in the ECM technique is how your body's detoxifying. Look, we live in a toxic world. We're all exposed to it. We don't even know. Mold is huge. I know you've seen it. Okay. I mean, and I have discovered in people, and I see you go get your house checked, and sure enough, yes. And mycotoxins, which are toxins because you've been living in a moldy environment for so long. So one of the things that I look at is how your body's detoxifying and which organs are implicated in the body's difficulty. Is it the lungs? Is it the colon? It's the skin? Is it all of them? Is it the lymph? Based on that, I do recommend, I have a desensitization I do to help the body detoxify more efficiently, and sometimes I like to use homeopathics for detoxification, or certain diets or certain powders too. And I have a lot of that on my website that I talk about and that I recommend. So yes, detoxification. If you are having a problem with weight, whether you can't lose weight or you can gain weight, you need to look at how the body's detoxifying. Because as you know, toxins are stored in fat. You can't lose the weight until you get rid of those toxins too. And sometimes it could be a virus that you had a long time ago, and you're still having symptoms of that. That could be something you need to help detoxify. It's interesting. It's one of the most important things that I look at first when someone comes to see me.
So do you really feel you said viruses, you said bacteria, you said mold, and obviously people are going to have a combination of multiple of these things. But you started off with mycotoxins or mold. Do you find that most commonly?
I don't know what it is, but I have been finding it more and more all the time. I just had a patient who we helped her with her Parkinson's. And she did some things herself, like Qigong, and I did my ECM technique with her. And then I found mold and her health was deteriorating. And I said, she lives in Santa Monica part-time. I said, please have that house tested. And sure enough, they said it was so bad. They said, you should never go into that house again. You should even destroy all the clothes because it was that bad. And you can see, and I just had a mycotoxin test on her, and it was so many of the mycotoxins were high. And she said, I knew I wasn't feeling well. Nobody found that. We found that. So yes, helping her detoxify that mold is for her paramount, for sure, in her health, especially because somebody who's dealing with Parkinson's, and she's been doing so well. But she noticed she said the other night, she said to me, I think I'm dying. That's how intense it is. And I'm sure you've seen it. Mold is very big. I also have a lot of people have trouble with chemicals. And you know what? A lot of people have trouble with marijuana. Since it's been legalized here in California, you smell it a lot. There are a lot of my clients that are sensitive to marijuana that are dealing with that. So it can be the work that I do is very tailored to the person. So I'm able to figure out what that toxin is that they are dealing with too. And some people, as you know, genetically do not detoxify that well. So you need some support. Fortunately, we have people like us that can help them because it's very difficult on their bodies, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. Mold is definitely one of the most underfound things that really deteriorate someone's health, really severe. I've experienced mold. I've seen a lot in my practice, run a lot of mycotox. So I fully agree.
And once you've been exposed, it's almost like you're more hypersensitive to it again.
Absolutely.
Like going to a church or a temple or whatever, and inevitably there's some mold. And we've had so much damage here in California from all the rain, the flood last year. So there's a lot of mold too.
I can see that. Absolutely. Yeah. Fires and floods, right? Fires and floods.
Yes.
So you talked initially about there being enzymes in the foods that we eat, specifically raw foods. But, you also stated that, hey, we're not really eating a lot of raw foods. What foods have enzymes that could help us break down our food?
Well, all raw vegetables and fruit do have enzymes that are inherently in that food. So if we chew that food well enough, we should be able to digest it adequately. Unfortunately, it's almost like you need to chew it 30 times for really to get it. But like I said, those cofactors that help those plants have the enzyme support that is needed is just not there anymore because it's been so over agriculturized. So we're missing those cofactors. So unfortunately, even though, and I'm a raw vegan, by the way, even though I eat raw and I chew my food really well, I still take my digestive enzyme. Literally, I probably on this planet been the one that's taken digestion longer than anyone else. Because first of all, it saved my life. I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, and nobody, the medical profession, the only answers were being on steroids and possibly surgery later on in life. One of my mentors in a postgraduate course I was taking said, Ellen, try a digestive enzyme. And nobody knew about it at the time. And I've been taking it ever since. And anybody who goes out to eat with me or comes to my, they start digestive enzymes and then they never stop. Well, will you give me something? Why don't you give me? I had such good digestion, I have this other enzyme that we have. It's called GI Calm. That is the best for heartburn and reflux. And if you overeat and that, you give somebody that, they're like, oh, thank you so much.
Yeah. I mean, obviously and you being a raw vegan, eating a huge diversity of different fruits and vegetables all the time, that's going to hugely diversify your microbiome, which is one of the big problems we see with ulcerative colitis too.
Yes. And sometimes people, they come in with a suitcase full of supplements. And one of the things that I have seen, I'm sure you see, if they don't digest the food, how are they going to digest and absorb all of the supplements? So I like to reduce the amount. I like to minimize the amount. And they love that because the amount of money they're spending is, sometimes, wow, it's crazy. And they go on a digestive enzyme. And literally, it's one of those supplements, they do feel the difference.
Yeah.
One thing that really makes a difference is women's hair. Women, when they lose hair, it's very difficult,
Absolutely.
Yeah. And there could be other things. There could be a B vitamin deficiency, thyroid toxicity could cause it. But taking a digestive enzyme can make such a difference. Mm-hmm. And it also helps you detoxify better, too. Also supports glands. It's such a boost to the hormonal balance for men and women. So there are many symptoms that I've seen over time that make such a difference when you digest your food. It's so darn simple.
Mm-hmm. And what do you believe is the best food to feed our gut in our brain?
I love my green vegetables. So as many green vegetables as you can get. That's where I could just live on a green. I make a green drink I have for lunch because I don't have that much time during lunch. And it's chlorella and spirulina and blue-green algae. I just love those greens. You could see it in somebody's body when they add those greens to their, to their recipes and whatever supplement or, as a food in itself, as a meal replacement makes such a difference. So that's where I go to. But all the vegetables, fruits are good, but people use fruit sometimes to substitute for sugars, and it can gain weight, and it's sugar. So even though I love fruit myself, I just think blueberries are probably okay, but still minimize. Some people make these shakes and they put so much fruit in there, and wonder why their fasting blood glucose level is still a little bit high. I think you have to watch the amount. So I'm more vegetables too. And not the sugary vegetables either, would be, potatoes, and sweet potatoes are good, but more the greens are really the most important, I think.
So is there anything that I didn't ask that you feel like is important before we wrap up?
I think we're good. I do think that people should try to eat more, eat like 80% a whole plant food diet. I really encourage that too. Whether you eat animal protein or you are a vegetarian that eats dairy or whatever, I do feel like if you could do 75 to 80% of your diet could be whole plant food. That is my answer. That is one point I put out for longevity, for wellness, and for happiness too. It makes you happier too. And teach your children that. And it's important that you are their models, their role models. If you're eating junk, you're eating, empty calories, of course they're going to follow you. So you make the example for your children and for your grandchildren too.
I think you made a very, very important point that it is, plant-based, like vegetable-based, because a lot of times I will see people come in and they are grainitarians. And that is like a recipe for disaster. Like it's just a recipe. So, I mean, I think that you
I'm with you. I'm so glad. I'm so glad you said that, because people who are carbohydrate intolerant probably should not eat all those grains. I like that grainitarian. That's a good one. I don't know that one.
I'm like, so how many vegetables do you eat per day? Oh, one. Okay, let's start with your vegetable. I'm like,
I try to have a salad once or twice a week.
Okay. Yeah, we gotta up that. That's why you're having some GI issues. That is the point. So
right.
Yeah, very, very great. So where can people find you if they want to get in touch with you?
So my website is drellencutler.com, and I talk all about this. My new updated book, Micro Miracles, can be pre-ordered, and it's all on enzymes, the miracles of enzymes, and it has 2 new chapters updated chapter on anti-aging and on post-COVID enzyme use too. Because one of the things we didn't talk about is the use of protease enzyme as an anti-inflammatory is very important, something I use in my practice quite a bit for people too. I have all of that in there in the book, and talk more and more about cardiovascular symptoms, kidney problems, and female problems related to enzymes and what you can do. So I'm excited to have that updated again and published.
Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. This was great. I appreciate it.